Good morning everybody, and welcome to my exhibition. My name is Rob Price, and I've got a few prints on display here at the Gosfield Gallery in the Gosfield Shopping Village, and I'd just like to take you round the room and show you what's on display, and hopefully you'll come along and see what I've been doing. If we could start over here with these colour abstract works. The first three are exercises in sort of flash photography, and also a lot of patience really, by dropping fruit into a small tank of water and just trying and trying again until you get a composition that you're happy with. And the strawberries and the lemon and lime have done really well for me. People are fascinated by the next one when I told them it's a splash of milk with some food colouring in. We can't believe that such a tiny little drop would make such an explosion. And these are quite talking points. Really, people do ask me how I've done it, and they're very interested in them. So if we wander around a bit further, one of my passions is architecture and straight lines and angles. And these two prints here were taken in London on a day trip out to photograph brutalist architecture, but I just like the patterns and textures, etc. These two made on a building just up near the Barbican somewhere it was. So I've included these in the exhibition today. They're like two new prints, especially for this one. Going back about a year to 18 months ago, I was invited to do an exhibition in Brick Lane. The theme was loosely based around water, so I did these three black and white abstracts along the wall here to comply with the entry. The first one over here I've called Ripples, and that was taken in Bergen Harbour in Norway. Just sat having a coffee one afternoon and just noticed all the reflections in the water, and the finer details in the ripples. It's actually oil floating on the water, but still makes for an interesting pattern. We come along to the middle one, and it was down at RHS Wisley, and I got behind the waterfall in the main greenhouse area, and because of the light coming into the image, I was able to get more textures and shapes out of the cascading water, and shot it at a high shutter speed just to capture the movement and freeze it rather than let it blur out. And we come along to the third of the series, which is taken in a little stream in the woods just behind where I live near Colchester, and I've called that one Dappled. And basically it's just the sunlight reflecting through the trees into the stream, and the water's breaking against a little twig poking out of the surface. So those three were all taken for a purpose for an exhibition. We've got along this wall some of my more general work. Obviously you've noticed by now I'm passionate in black and white, and the first one there is taken in Prague on the Charles Bridge. Apparently this violinist plays there every Sunday, and what you don't see behind him, underneath the picture, is a Caligas heath with a gas burner on top, because it was actually about -10 at the time. And we go along, we've got the beach down at Portland in Cornwall, with a huge, great big natural boulders which fall out of the cliffs onto the beach. Very, very interesting place. Travel, we do love to get about, and here's my interpretation of the Berlin Wall. Basically, where the people are walking was known as the death strip. So during the time of the Cold War, they would be shot on sight for walking along that road. And photographically, it breaks the rules because they're leaving the image and not walking into it. So, that has done very well for me, and I've won several awards with that. We come along to these three in the corner. This is my interpretation of Grayson Perry's House for Essex, which is down near Radness, Harwich. I've gone down there on a rather breezy and bright day and photographed it in infrared, so that you've got a different take on it. It's somebody's piece of artwork, and you need to make it your own rather than just copy what they've done. So there's about a 30-second exposure. We've got movement in the grass and the tree and the clouds, and of course the grass has turned white, and it's just given us a more surreal effect to what really is a very surreal building. These two, I do love architecture, and old architecture as well as modern. That was taken off the Charles Bridge in Prague, probably only 5 minutes after I took the picture of the violinist, but it's a very famous view once you've crossed the bridge and walking up towards the castle. And on this wall here we have St Paul's Cathedral and the Millennium Bridge, with the contrast between modern and old architecture. So, and using a long lens, have compressed the focal length so that it sort of brings it sort of forward into the frame, and gives both objects prominence in the shot. So that's those images, and I've got some on this board round here. As you've probably noticed, we like to go down to Cornwall, and got on this piece my interpretation of the Eden project, taken from the top of the visitor centre, just angles and shapes. I do love angles and shapes, and so that's how I see the Eden project, probably not like any other people do. We've got movement there with Goliath Falls in Cornwall, long shutter speed, slow shutter speed, just to capture the movement of the water, which I think makes a nice abstract composition. It was also quite a hazardous walk down there over these green mossy rocks for about a mile, carrying all your equipment and tripod and that, but it was worth the effort when we got there. We've got the Fernsehturm, which is an iconic structure in what was the communist part of Berlin. But rather than just take the picture of the tower at the top through what is pretty much a plain tube hole supporting it, I've gone back a few streets and taken it over the rooftops of a glass building, and just to add a bit more shape and structure to it all. We've got a spring, very showery spring day there at the iconic broadwood wooded trees, which are on the border of Devon and Cornwall. If ever you go down to Cornwall, you know you're nearly there, because they're literally about a mile from the sign. Smaller version there of the waterfall, which is on the main wall, and another interpretation of the Eden project. We come round again, and there's a smaller version of St Paul's Cathedral, and a very simple composition taken down at Dover Court on a very stormy morning. We've got the stone pier coming out from the left, and it's just a simple composition of the sea, the clouds, and a little bit of sunlight chinking in from the right, actually, not the chinking in from the right, just to add some sort of texture to the sky. We come around to the final few images, what we've got around here, and there is 2 abandoned boats down on the Dungeness, which was taken on a very, very hot day. I got totally sunburnt that day, but a really interesting place to go to. We've got a very sort of rough and windy afternoon again down in Cornwall, with the sort of the white horses rolling off the Atlantic and crashing up against the rocks on Polzeath Beach. Again, a smaller version of the House for Essex. A very simple composition above that of the 2 seats on the village green up by where I live on a snowy afternoon. Sort of very simple, but I think rather effective. As we come round to the end of what I've got on display today, we've got a different format of the trees down on the border at Devon and Cornwall, and a smaller version of the domes in Prague, and another smaller version of the House for Essex. So that concludes what I've got on show today. So I hope you found my little journey around the gallery interesting, and I do hope you'll come along and have a look, hopefully buy something. So that's great, thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you sometime over the next month. Thank you.